Welcome to the Mystical Musings with Friends podcast. Join us in these fun, consciousness-expanding episodes hosted by myself, Kimberley Leite, where we discuss the world of the mystical and how this world can enhance your life experience, along with spiritual teachers and leaders from around the world. Join us as we explore subjects including the ascension and oneness teachings, law of attraction, channeling, spiritual healing, psychic explorations, and various other journeys within the mystical, esoteric, and metaphysical realms. It is a journey behind the veil of our reality, and it's a journey of awakening to the powerful being that you truly are. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to our next episode of Mystical Musings with Friends. So today I am joined by friends and fellow channels, Astrid and Isabelle. Hi ladies.
Hi.
Hello.
Thanks for joining today. So today's theme is going to be a discussion about the illusion of fear and division. So it is a bit of a large topic, and it is being expressed a lot in our society currently, especially this year of 2020 and the last few years. So for those of you who are going inwards on this ascension journey, you will know that we are going through a current Great Awakening shift. Now, in this Great Awakening shift, what is occurring is that it's not only our perceived individual shadows, dimensions of fear coming to the surface, but it's also that of the collective. So because we are connected with the collective consciousness, we are one, right? So as above, so below, as within, so without, as the saying goes. What you see in society, if you see a lot of chaos in society, a lot of fear in society, what that is that is representative of the shift that is actually occurring in our collective consciousness. It is because we as a collective, as part of our soul contracts during this time of Great Awakening, we wanted to remember more of our oneness state, our divine state, right? And for us to get to that vibration, we need to let go of these density programs, these limiting beliefs around fear and control, victim mentality. And this is why we are seeing in some communities and some areas of society, we're seeing that really come to the surface. You know, you may be seeing, in the world that there is a lot of division right now. But if you can see things from a higher perspective, know that everything is happening for us, even the division, and know that division is only an illusion. Fear is only an illusion. However, it is a necessary process for the collective to allow those dimensions of fear to come to the surface within them, to acknowledge them, and then to transmute them into love remembrance. So some of you are experiencing on an individual level these illusions of fear and division, or judgments of others who may be in fear. And understand that is, again, the process of dimensions within you that perhaps you have not looked at before. Shadows. Maybe you've repressed these fears deep inside you. And what's happening with the collective, we are now forced to look at our shadows. So this is what is occurring. And by us as a collective, to allow these shadows to be lifted to the surface, for us to address it and to let it go, to then allow it to be transmuted into love by accepting our shadows, by seeing the gifts in our shadows, by seeing the soul lessons there. We then allow certain activations to take place within our being and allows us to remember more of our divine state. It is a move to oneness remembrance. So without further ado, I'd like to open this up to discussion, and let's talk about what these collective shifts are occurring in your experiencing and where these shifts are all leading us to. So ladies, how do you describe the collective shifts at the moment?
I think for me, I am seeing my friends and coworkers and the people I interact with. I really don't watch the news, so I really don't know what other things are going on, to be honest with you, but whatever comes across my physical reality. What's interesting is I would say I am seeing a pattern of old wounds. Something old is coming to the surface. And, I have a lot of friends that are light workers and who are awake. And they are even experiencing these intense old emotions and wounds. And they're like, am I going crazy? And I'm like, no, you're not going crazy. It's just that it's just part of the process. And I understand that when you talk about integrating the fear or loving the fear, a lot of people, and Astrid did a course on self-acceptance, and you have to judge that fear as right. That's really what that means. That's what that means. It means when, for example, for me, I judged anger for the longest time as wrong. I just thought, what's the point of anger? What does it solve? You get angry, you flip out, you have a temper tantrum, then what? Now what, right? That was my belief. Now I understand it's emotion. It's an energy wave. It can go through you and it's not wrong. And it's okay. And it's good to have it expressed. And so if somebody had told me that I would think anger was a good thing, I would say, you have not met my mother and I think you're crazy. So but now I have a deeper understanding of it. Now I can allow that emotion of anger be within me. And so when I see somebody angry, it does not trigger me as deeply as it once did, because it scared me as a child. It was very scary to see my mom lose it. And she would say, Isabelle, I see red. And I think that woman saw red, guys. She was so mad. She literally saw the room red. And she just got mad a lot, which I now know it's limiting beliefs and she was triggered, right? But she was also playing a role for me. So I think all of those things are, I think you have to kind of unpack it, because it's a lot when you say, oh, just integrate it. Oh, just accept. It's all good. What, you can't do that in 10 seconds? Or even if you don't believe you can do it in 10 seconds, you judge yourself that you've worked on this issue before and you find yourself working on it again and again and again. And you begin to doubt it because you're like, wait, I thought I already worked on that. Why is this showing up again? Right? Because are you afraid of the negative emotion? Are you still trying to hide from it? Are you doing your soul work so you don't feel it? Can't trick the universe, my friends. Good luck to ya. Good luck. Can't trick it. So it is an integration. And as I go through my journey of understanding, there are many layers to it.
Yes, indeed. And you're very right there, Isabelle. It doesn't happen overnight, right? And we all experience the fear. We're not immune to this. Those of us who are aware of these higher concepts, those of us who do our inner soul shadow work, and that's why it's so important. And even then, we can still be triggered by it. Yes, you may be able to manage the fear more and being able to then go into more of a dimension of love in a quicker way than others, perhaps. But that's also because of our soul journey, our path, and us, doing the work also relates to soul contracts. And that's another important point, is that some people experience more fear than others. And it doesn't mean that doing anything wrong. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong with them or their processes. Some people chose, prior to coming here, to choose for themselves an intense theme of fear, to allow them, to catalyze them in going inwards to remember who they truly are. And you might go, why would we choose that for ourselves? Why would we choose to be victims, right? It doesn't make sense, right? From a human perspective, why would we choose something like that for ourselves? We understand we don't choose it from a human perspective. We choose it from a non-physical perspective. And guess what? Everything that's occurring now in this collective, in this reality, in our society, you know, everyone say, wow, 2020, like what a year, right? But we chose it, right? For a higher reason. And even though you might question, why would we choose such things? It's because we wanted this expansion. We wanted us to remember more of who we are.
It's so interesting because you're saying, you know, or so many people say, oh, I didn't choose this life. I wouldn't choose these things that hurt this much. But it's like you said, Kimberly, that's the human perspective. You don't design yourself in this lifetime from a human perspective. You do it from a soul level, and from a soul level, creating challenges and difficult experiences is exciting. That's exciting because you are a master. So when you are a master, you don't come for an easy life. And so I see so many people, and even in the light worker community, that are so full of fear, and they're choosing to stay in this victimhood. They're choosing to stay in this feeling of someone else is controlling me. And it feels like the fear that's going on in society now, it's just the outer layers or the top layers where people are still choosing to be in victimhood, where they say, I feel fear because of you, because of something outside of me. And so when we stay there, when we say, I am a victim because of you or because of something outside of me, you're choosing to stay in fear. You're choosing to stay in the lower dimensions. And so, yeah, it's difficult to say, oh, I'm responsible for the pain in my life, but that's the only way that you can move out of victimhood. And I'm not saying that, oh, you have to enjoy everything that's happened, or, I mean, you know, I'm not saying that it's right to kill anyone. I'm just saying, just be aware that on a soul level, you are so powerful that you chose this. And then you can move past that surface layer of fear, because I feel like what's going on right now is the surface layer, where most people are blaming someone else for how they feel. Most people are blaming someone else for their fear. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what's going to happen in the next few months, or maybe even into 2021. Oh, that sounds like sci-fi. But yeah, because I feel like the exciting things happen when you move your focus from blaming someone outside of you and then start looking at, why am I afraid? Why am I giving my power away? That's like when I feel the exciting changes will come.
Exactly. And, you know, we are seeing that a lot, aren't we, ladies? This in the light worker community, in a lot of spiritual communities, there is a lot of fear. And I just want to say too that if you're amongst those people, or you see others are experiencing this intense fear, know that it's not wrong. No, it's part of their soul journey, but know that they don't have to stay in that state permanently. And if you're experiencing this intense fear, if you're experiencing this paradigm of us versus them and victim mentality, then it is for you for a reason, right? Know that it is an illusion. No, it's not the truth of who you are. So what happens is that as a collective, these purge, which are, you know, programs that no longer serve us, are coming to the surface. Now, the control paradigm, control is an aspect of fear. And that is actually now currently being purged from the collective consciousness. And that's why we are seeing in society, being reflected in society, there are many people in that state of control, that fear, us versus them. I need to control my reality. I need to control how the governments run. I need to control how this is done, and so forth. Understand that this is the greatest awakening of humankind. And because of that, we are required to shift dramatically. For us to shift dramatically, we need to let go of a lot of conditionings and a lot of programmings. And this is why, if you can even look back, how it's been in stages, right? You have like the bushfires, then you have the COVID, then you have the US election, for instance. Can't you see how there's stages, and at each stage allows us to go inwards to really see what's important in our life. And yes, we are seeing a lot of division, a lot of us versus them. So with that, it's a good point, Astrid, is that if you don't do the soul work, if you aren't embracing those shadows, you can be attached to the shadows. You can be attached to those paradigms of fear and see them as truth. I've been down that rabbit hole years ago, right? And you know what? What's happening is actually part of the awakening process. So it's not wrong. It's a common theme. Not everyone, but a lot of people who start off on this journey without doing the soul work first, what happens is that you start to see behind the veil of physical reality. You then, if you haven't done that soul work, that shadow work, by actually embracing the shadows, not rejecting them, by seeing what the lessons are in there, you then attach to the stories within fear or victim mentality, and they become very real for you. So that's why it is an important process to do your soul work. And a lot of people are fearful of fear itself, the emotion of fear, of their shadows, but there's nothing to be fearful of, right? Because we are source, we are divine. We have all the abilities to manage all these dimensions of fear. And this is how, we unite to oneness, remembrance. It's about acknowledging these shadows within us. We are multidimensional beings. So we exist in dimensions in love and fear, right? And once they come within us into a conscious awareness, if we can address that fear, those illusions, and and accept it and work through the limiting beliefs behind it, we then actually unite that and transmute that into love and oneness remembrance. And that's how we, on an individual level and a collective level, are remembering our divine selves. So understand that if you are in those communities or those experiencing intense fear, know that this is for you. But no, it's not permanent, and no, it is just an illusion based on the frequency you are vibrating in right now. It's not permanent. And, as we go through this awakening journey, yes, we're not immune to this, all of us here, right? Even though it might not be as intense for us, we still experience, it still pops up for us, right? And it's really about accepting the emotions. There's been a lot of conditionings, and I know you ladies can speak of this, that we have been conditioned that, okay, you have a negative emotion, a negative thought. Okay, push that aside. Think happy thoughts, right? Think happy thoughts. Don't worry about the shadows. Guess what happens? They don't go away. They come repressed within you, and it'll always pop up, and it'll filter your perspective in life. So now we're being forced to address these shadows, all those shadows that you have repressed, that you've rejected. We are now as a collective having to address these now. So most importantly, as we go through this journey, is be, compassionate with yourself, be compassionate for others who are also on this awakening journey. This is all part of this collective shift to oneness.
I just want to talk a little bit about fear, because fear is such a doozy, because it can be very physically painful. It can be emotionally painful, where you just want to end your life because it's so painful. You just don't want to play the game anymore. And so I want to honor that those fear journeys, I get it. I understand. And what helped me was Isis, my non-physical guide, said, are you being the rock jutting out of the ocean? And so, like, if you can imagine an ocean and there's a rock protruding from the ocean, you see the waves hitting that rock, crashing into that rock, and that waves are frothing, right? And that rock is being battered. But if you can go into that emotion, into that fear, into that pain, and imagine yourself as a rock sinking into the ocean, the waves go gently around the rock. That's what we talk about, going within, feeling the emotions, not being resistant to it. It's okay. We understand it's painful. We understand that it hurts. We understand it's not fun. I get it. But as your sister, I will always encourage you to do your shadow work. Always, always, always. Because you are me and I am you, and we are all connected. So when you do it, you help all of us. And how exciting is that? So go within, feel, examine that pain, be the rock, submerge yourself into it, and relax into it. So have you ever hurt your foot? Like you twisted your ankle and or you cut your finger and you shake it and you're like right, and you breathe, right? That's a natural reaction of that pain, to breathe, right? So guess what I want you to do in those emotional fear? I want you to breathe. Take deep breaths. Fill your belly. Deep breaths within that pain. And just be the rock. And that is how you can do your shadow work. And there's many modalities. I'm just giving you one.
You know, that's a very important tip because, you know, often we hear about breathing, being present, but often in times when we're in fear, when we are triggered, we forget that, right? So it really is about being in the present moment. And you know, our heart center also, I know, Isabelle, you talk a lot about this, I know. Our heart center is the portal to our true self.
Mm-hmm.
If you can bring your pain out of the head, out of the thinking, drop it into your heart space and feel it. This is how we transmute fear. You do need to feel it. I know it's painful. And I know there might be some, you know, past wounds, like you were saying, memories. And it could even just be annoyances. It doesn't have to be full-blown fear and pain, right? But bring it to the heart center. You know, you can communicate with it, right? There are dimensions. Ask it, what is it trying to show you? Yeah, like Isabelle said, there are many modalities here, but just breathe, center yourself, and bring it into the heart space, connecting with Earth, with Gaia. She also helps you ground through this. Just know you're never alone as well, as you would know, you know, but understand too that all the spirit guides, they're all actually us. They're all within us. They're not external to us. They may just be perceived to come externally because we're attached to duality. In higher truth, they are within us, for we are one with them. So you're never alone in this journey. So remember this, when you do feel alone, when you do feel in pain and fear, know that you're not alone on this journey. All you have to do is ask. Go inwards into your heart center and ask for guidance. It is okay to feel fear. It is okay to feel this emotion. In fact, this is how you do your shadow and soul work. And this is why so many people have rejected it, right? Oh, it's too hard. Put it in the basket. Deal with it later. And now we are collectively being forced to look at it. So, you know, you only need to look at it when you're triggered by it in the moment, right? You don't have to always delve into your shadows every minute of the day. But when you are triggered in it, it's coming up for a reason there.
I think it's so important what Isabelle, you said in the beginning, that this is, you know, the inner work. It's not a one-time fix. You're going to have to do this over and over and over. And what I'm learning is that once you fix something, you work on you work on one of your problem areas or a topic. So for me, that was unworthiness, or that was one of them. God, have so many, but you know, and then once you sort of heal that, you shift, you know, you raise your vibration, shift into a higher dimension. And then suddenly this issue comes back again. And an immediate thought could be, shit, I thought I dealt with this. And you did deal with it. It's just that now you're at a higher vibration, and the topic is coming up for you so that you can look at it from a higher perspective. It's supposed to be coming back to you. This, Isabelle, you've talked about this spiral, right? Where you raise your vibration and you get to look at yourself, the energies that are you. So, you know, everything that triggers you outside of you, it's just your experience of your own energy. And so when you get triggered, those same old topics or issues over again, it's just, yeah, wonderful. I've shifted to a higher vibration, and now I can look at the same topics or the same problems from a higher perspective, heal a bit deeper from a higher perspective. And so, yeah, this is lifelong work, and it doesn't have to be horrible. I mean, yeah, I sure have I still have the same, or the, you know, the main topics, but compared to how it used to be 5 years ago, 3 years ago, even 1 year ago, the pain that comes up now is like nothing. It's like, it used to be the pain of getting my foot amputated off, and now it's just like stubbing my toe. So it's still uncomfortable to feel fear, but it's not, you know, it's not horrible. It doesn't kill me. It's just, it's so interesting to experience myself in that reflection of my own energy. There's so much information there. So it's actually turning into this fun game, because fear doesn't have to be horrible. It's just about not resisting it. Like you ladies said, not resisting the fear. And it just becomes, for me, it's exciting. I mean, I might be, weird being into this, but it is kind of exciting to see yourself expand.
But that's exactly right, Astrid. You don't have to suffer through it. We think that, okay, to feel the full force of emotions, it's going to trigger a lot of negative emotions within us. But okay, initially it might be very intense, but each time you do it, it gets less intense. And understand there's gifts there within it. And it's actually about changing your perspective, like, oh no, I have to deal with that again, It's about opening your mind to it, being curious. Oh, wow, this got triggered within me. Oh, that's interesting. I must not be seeing a higher perspective here. So you can actually see it as a game. And that's, it's what it is. If you can, in the moment, detach from what is happening and then be like an observer, which is fun to do if you can do it. It's not always easy in the moment. It takes practice, but you can, in the moment when you're triggered, kind of take yourself away in that moment. And then, oh, interesting, as the observer, like as if you're looking down from the non-physical perspective. What is my soul lesson here? And, there are many different tools you can do that. I mean, often we are triggered by other people, right? It might be events, in society on a grand level, but also more commonly, right? It's in our individual lives. So it could be our partners, our friends, or whatever. But understand, in oneness, there are aspects of us, and everyone here are master teachers. Everyone here is enlightened, even those of us who are in the depths of fear, and those of us, you might see as unawakened. Guess what? They are just as enlightened as all of you. Everyone is just as enlightened. It's just that there are different levels of that remembrance. So it's not like you have to gain enlightenment. We are already that. We are source manifested. We are master teachers. So it is a process of unlearning. And if you can unlearn, you'll naturally bring online this divine wisdom of who you are and your abilities here. And yes, there are some people who have chosen their lives to be more, challenging than others, but it's part of the soul contracts, because prior to coming here on earth, right, from a non-physical perspective, you chose certain themes. You also chose certain players to help you with these tasks, these themes, right? So those of you that trigger you the most, they're part of your soul family. They are willingly doing this to assist you to remember the love that you are. So when you are triggered by others, you can then in the moment see that they are helping you with this soul lesson here, so you can expand more into love. You may not be able to see the lesson in the moment. You may not be able to see the higher perspective in the moment, but you can be appreciative of the moment. You can be grateful for the moment. You can remind yourself that this person or this situation is love. And if you can do that, you already raise your frequency to dimensions of love. And the more you can change your perspective in acceptance and love, what happens, your channel becomes more clear, and then you can more easily manage your emotions, and then you can more easily see the lessons there and the gifts there, and you're able to more clearly tap into the divine guidance within you about what is actually happening, and just general communications and guidance to you. So this is the work. It's about, when you're triggered in the moment, seeing the lessons there. But often in this journey, you can tend to, want to control situations, or there can be a lot of judgment to others or conditions, what's preferred. So judgment, victim mentality, control, with all aspects of fear, right? Fear is an illusion. But understand also that polarity is a necessary shift for us to expand. It's a mechanism. It's how source, as we are source, allowed it to experience itself. It had to go through this polarity process. And it's not just in our collective, it's in other collectives too. But we as a human collective have attached so much of that polarity into fear. It doesn't always have to be that intense fear. It's just that that's our stage of the human collective, right? And this is being now shed because we are wanting to remember more of our oneness state. And, even though this has been quite heavy, intense for a lot of us, know that things will get easier for us. And in fact, and you ladies can speak of this, it's actually preparing for many other exciting shifts that's laying ahead for us. Now, some things that has come through, the beings of the light, and I think Isabelle and Astrid, you girls probably have channeled all this also, is that what's happening right now is that our collective, right, by us addressing these fears, by us letting go of these programs of fear, of control, victim mentality, and by doing that, activating more of our dormant DNA, our light bodies within us to allow us to remember more of who we are. That allows us as a collective, our frequency to increase, our vibration to increase. Then if the majority is more in that love, we then move as a collective to a higher dimension. And then as we move into that higher dimension, it allows for the next stage to occur. So yes, 2020, even though it's been intense, it is not over. But understand that from everything that I've received, it's not going to get as an intense as it has been now. Things are going to get a little bit more easier. Of course, some people are still going to get more triggered because there are different stages of this soul work here. But understand that as the collective shifts, what's going to happen, it is going to create a portal, and it's going to bring into play the next stage of our oneness remembrance. And that is, and then for those of you who are into these teachings and metaphysical teachings, you will know that the time is coming soon for first contact with our ET friend, so to speak. And this is another step for our oneness remembrance. And this is why these shifts need to occur, for us to be as a collective at such a high frequency by doing these shifts, so they can make that first contact, so they can be in a high vibration and still meet us on our level also. So understand there are even more higher perspectives to what is occurring here. And it's you can see there is a pattern, right? You ladies probably can see how all these shifts occurring. It's preparing us. So understand it's not finished yet, but it is going to get easier. But, that's why it's important for you to continue on the soul work. And what Astrid said, it never ends for any of us. It might be easier, but it never ends, because we have so much programs to let go of, to transmute, right? And make it a daily practice if you can, if you're triggered, that is. Whenever you're triggered in the moment, even if it's an annoyance, you might think, I don't have to work on that because it's an annoyance. But even if it's a slight trigger, that's still there for you to address. And Astrid, like what you said is very true. It keeps coming back. The same theme could keep coming back, and it gives us the opportunity to see it from a different angle, right? From a higher perspective. And that is the game. And it's the game that we chose. So you might ask yourself, why would I choose this game? Why would I choose this life for myself? Why would we choose COVID? Why would we choose so much tragedy in a perspective? Well, again, understand that people play roles here. And yes, even though it might be hard to understand from a human comprehension, even those that chose to transition, they did choose that pre-birth. So even though you might perceive as a lot of tragedies because of these shifts, that was also meant to happen. And understand that people choose when they die. Now, we don't choose it from a human perspective. We choose it from a non-physical perspective. I know that might be hard to understand, but understand there are a lot of soul contracts in play here. So understand that there truly is no victims here. And it truly is about seeing us as God creators here. We are playing this game together, and this game not supposed to be so serious, even though it seems very serious, even though the illusions can be very, very strong. Even those of us who know these perspectives, I don't know, ladies, I'm sure you've experienced this. Even those of us who know these high perspectives, we too can be caught up in the illusion. The illusion can be so strong at times, and we understand that. This is part of the human paradigm. We're in this transitional phase, right? So just be gentle on yourself, just accept your journey. And what Isabelle said, exactly, you're right. By you doing your soul work, you are assisting the collective consciousness, because we're all attached to collective consciousness. We are one, right? So by you doing your soul work, you are actually assisting the collective to raise their frequency. That's how powerful we all are, but we have forgotten it.
I just wanted to say, I can't tell you how many times. So I'm just going in my day-to-day life and something will happen and I'm like, that's right. We're in a planetary shift right now. I completely forgot that there is an ascension going on. That's right. I got so caught up in the illusion that it just goes right out my head that there's, a planetary shift. Oh, so this is what I wanted to share with you girls in the audience. I was listening, another friend of mine was channeling Roxanne Swainhart, and somebody asked him a question, or her a question, I mean, and what was interesting was Tesla, there was a trajectory of Earth where Tesla free energy was brought forth. And because that free energy was brought forth, it brought forth other technologies. And because it brought greater technologies, that version of Earth in that timeline, that collective didn't want to ascend because there was no contrast. It didn't create the desire. And I was just thinking like, because there's a lot of contrast here, right? And I'm like, that makes perfect sense that this collective, this timeline that we're part of, created the desire to ascend. And it's so funny. So just me personally, I'm like, I would so give up advanced technology to ascend. No wonder I'm here.
That's right.
Yeah. So going through the contrast and the fear is like so worth it because it really did push us to seek, to be curious, to look for different answers, right? I mean, if you guys told me that angels were real 10 years ago, I would be like, really? Now I talk to them all the time and I'm like, oh yeah, no, they're real. Yeah, I mean, it's so funny. And if somebody said, oh, so do you believe in non-physical entities? I'd be like, what do you mean they have no body? Like, what does that mean, non-physical? Now I'm like, oh, spirit. Yeah. No, there might be FFs.
Do you really, Isabelle, sometimes forget that we're in the ascension?
Oh, all the time, Astrid.
Really?
Funny. It is so funny. Sometimes, yeah, I get so caught up in like the illusion or work or doing something or or something breaks or or fear comes up, right? And for it's almost like amnesia comes like crashing down and I completely forget like, oh, that's right. And I think why it's because we talk to each other all the time, us three. When you're in grocery shopping or, I call it the muggle world, but when you're in the muggle world, they get so like caught up in the election. They get so caught up in the game, right? And then they're passionate about it. It's almost like me watching people who are really into sports. Like, if their team doesn't win, they are like shattered. Not like for a day, but like, they're like their dog died, and those sometimes when that happens, I'm like, oh, that's right.
Yeah. I'm in my own little bubble. So I'm sort of, when I watch things, like the US election or the COVID, I'm like, how can you not see this is clearly the ascension? Like, how can anyone not see this? But that's because I live, like, I don't have a job to go to. So I'm in my own little, light worker spirituality bubble. So for me, everything is like proof of how we're in the middle of the ascension. And I'm like, how can you not see this? Because for me, it's like that whole perspective thing. For me, I see everything from my perspective of, oh my God, this is so exciting. We're in the ascension. Everything, this is proof. This is proof. Just like for other people, what's happening now is proof of how the world is going on under. Like it's all like an Armageddon. I don't know, but it's all about perspective.
Yes. And it's true. I am surrounded by a lot of spiritual people. So like when I do get caught up in that illusion, right? I'm like, oh, like it kind of like startles me a little bit, Um, but they really, whoever I'm speaking to or whoever is in my physical reality, that's their perspective, that's their belief, right? And they're creating that dimension in that moment. And it doesn't matter what I believe, right? But I agree with you, Astrid. I'm like, gosh, if they just were a little more curious, if they were just a little more curious, they could see the magic out there. They can see we're really going through a planetary shift. I mean, even people in our community will be into astrology, right? And isn't that curious that the planets are aligning that haven't aligned in the past 250 years? Isn't that curious? So many clues. Yeah.
Yeah. It is interesting, and we are in this transition, so it's only normal that sometimes we may have that amnesia, right? We just forget and we get stuck in that illusion, and then of course because we're in the transition, we're like, oh yeah, that's right, it's part of the ascension process. So it's normal and it's okay if you're in fear, and because we all experience it, right? We're human. Yes, we are more than human, but we've manifested in form as a human being with human programs in this timeline, right? Yes, we have other programs, and now we're activating other forms like galactic DNA within us, yes, but we are still aligned to human programs. So we are conditioned through these programs, and we see our reality through these programs. And it is normal to feel fear because it's part of the human paradigm, so it is okay. And I know that a lot of people, especially in the light worker community or spiritual communities, they do often judge themselves. They're like, oh, I experienced fear. Oh, there's something wrong with me. I'm not doing the process right, or I'm not powerful enough, And no, it does not mean that. It just means that it's actually a good thing, because now you're bringing to the surface more of your shadows, right? So it doesn't show you have failed if you're experiencing fear or you're not able to kind of come out of that fear. It's there for a reason. So it's really about being curious. And even if you can be curious and open, you can actually be like what Astrid said. Astrid, you're saying you're excited with the shifts. You can actually come to a point where it's like, wow, I'm experiencing fear. Well, this is exciting. Gives me the opportunity to get to the next level, because it's a soul test, right? Soul lessons. Not because we deserve like pain or to have suffering. It's because we are ready to go to the next level of our ascension. So if you're experiencing a lot of fear, know that it's coming to you because you're ready to get to the next level, so to speak, another dimensional experience. So if you can actually see what's happening as a game, it does help you to let go of the resistance, because you then are able to see all the aspects of the game, or the programs, the fear and the division. Oh, that's interesting. And oh, this person's triggering me, or that situation's triggering me. That's situation's triggering the collective. Oh, how interesting. How curious is that? So if you can start to see things from a point of curiosity in a game, you then let go of the attachments to it, right? You then become the observer. And if you can do that, you can see higher perspectives, because it's in us attaching to these stories of illusion where it's difficult for us to see the truth of what's happening here, the higher perspectives. So even though we'd be conditioned that certain things are truth and fear is real, victim mentality is real, yes, it is. I guess it's real in the third dimensional experience of humanity, but we are not third dimensional. That's only one aspect of our experience. We are actually much more than that. And from a higher perspective, from higher dimensions of consciousness, there's much more going on here. And as such, I'm seeing a lot of people as well in relation to that victim mentality and control, that, people are out to get us, the governments are out to get us, or the darkness versus the light, and the shadow government and this government, blah, 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 blah. I understand, because like I said, years ago, I went to the rabbit hole, and guess what happens? If you don't do that soul work, which at that time I went through, because you go through different stage of awakening, right? And years ago, my eyes started to see behind the veil of physical reality. And I started to go, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. And I went down the rabbit hole. And guess what happened? I experienced fear every day. I thought I was a victim. I did not feel free. I felt like the world is controlling me. I felt like, what's the point of, what's the point when we're being controlled? That's not the way to live. I experienced that. Luckily, it was only temporarily. It didn't last that long, thank goodness. But that was part of me, because now I can see from the other side now. Now I can see from the perspective of those who are currently going through that stage at the moment, because I've been there, right? And it is a rabbit hole. And if you keep going down that rabbit hole, you're not going to be illuminated. You're just going to go more into fear, more into victim mentality. And luckily in that process, I was drawn to certain teachings like law of attraction that really helped me to see what was really happening. And then understanding these universal laws kind of helped me to come out of that rabbit hole and see what's really, truly happening here. And it's, oh my goodness, this illusion can be so strong. I understand that, right? It feels so real, but understand that all these players, even in the illusion, in the story of 3D reality, there may be players, there may be certain people that seem evil or out to get us, but understand that pre-birth coming into physical reality, they are actually all here assisting us out of love. They have chosen to play certain roles for the collective to move us into love and oneness remembrance. So understand that could be people in, the government, people in the in society, even people in your personal lives. Understand that if they trigger you, they are assisting you for a reason. And if you are triggered, then what is that? If you have this perspective of control, of victim mentality, people are putting control over you, then understand that, and you're triggered by it, understand that they're reflecting a belief in you. That a belief is within you that you are controlling aspects of your own life. So it's always a mirror to what's going on within you. If you are triggered by a certain dynamic, then that dynamic is being ruled in your life and you have not shone light on it. So if you're having this thing of control and perception of control over others, ask yourself, go inwards, be honest with yourself. Go into your heart center and ask, what are you controlling in your life? What are you judging in your own life? What are you judging of yourself? Because the most important aspect on this ascension journey is actually accepting all aspects of you, all of your emotions. Your emotions are dimensions of you. If you can accept all your emotions, that they're dimensions of experience, if you can accept all your shadows, or your lights, if you can accept all your what you call as ailments, that is how you remember your love state. And once you can do that, you can more easily see that in others and see them as the master teachers that they are. So it's all about going inwards. And then by doing that, you can start to see more clearly what's really going on here.
It's also just interesting because so many people choose to feel like victims, right? And so, like you said, they choose to believe that the government is controlling them, or other people are controlling them, or reptiles are controlling them, or the darkness is controlling them. And then I would just ask those people to just go within and feel. How do you feel when you believe that all this darkness, the government, reptiles, evil entities are controlling you? How does that make you feel? Because when you walk around feeling negative feeling, you're feeling fear, that's a clue that you're perceiving it in an incorrect manner, because you always have that guidance within. You have that guiding light that always wants to steer you towards love, towards the more empowering perspectives, towards a higher perspective. And so when you feel negative emotion by thinking that other people or other entities or whatever it is are controlling you, that negative emotion is a sign to you that, okay, maybe what I'm believing in is not true. Maybe it's an illusion. So I wish people could just go in and feel for the truth. Like you said, Kimberly, leading with the heart, or being more in the heart space, or maybe that was you, Isabelle, I can't remember, but focusing more on the heart rather than just staying in the mind or in the brain, because all these theories can confuse many of us. If we're in fear, it's easy to just grab one of these negative theories and be like, yes, other people are controlling me, that's why I feel so bad, that's why my life is so fucked up. but that feels bad. So if you can just
Mhm.
focus more on your heart, focus on how you feel, and just maybe, okay, this feels bad. Maybe my inner guide is trying to tell me something, and just look for a lighter perspective, because it feels bad to believe in the illusion.
Yeah. And, Isabel, it can feel very, very, very real. And I understand this. And there's so many people at the moment who are exploring certain theories about the us versus them. But it's also part of the awakening process. It happened to me. That it's a stage of awakening process. Doesn't mean you have to permanently stay there. It does happen for a lot of people. And just remind yourself that everything is happening for you, even if it seems so real. End of the day, do you want to experience fear? Do you want to experience freedom? Right? End of the day, we all want to experience freedom. And guess what? We are free. There is no one controlling us from a higher perspective, from who we truly are, because we're a source. No one is controlling us. We are free in every single way. And I know for some, this might be hard to believe, but we are free. And how good does it feel to know that you are free, not controlled, right? Because freedom is who you truly are. Everything else is an illusion. Everything else is a program of 3D reality. 3D reality is being shifted now from the collective. We are much more than that dimension, right? These are just stories within that dimension. We are multidimensional beings. And guess what? Like Astrid, how you said, Isabelle, like how you said there's an Earth, the Tesla technology, right?
Yes.
We are multidimensional beings. So there is also a dimension of us where we as a collective have remembered our oneness state, that has remembered who we truly are in love. And guess what? Those dimensions are helping us in this present moment. When you receive that divine wisdom and all these abilities come online, guess what? It's all coming from you, from a dimension that already exists. You're manifesting that because you are now ready to bring that online. So understand that we are already enlightened. And this illusion of victim mentality, of fear, of being controlled, it was a necessary part of our journey. So understand that everything experiencing now, or that has been experienced, was for us, for our collective journey, for our evolution. But understand that this is an illusion. Understand it is the distortion. So it's not wrong. It's just a distortion of who we truly are, which is free, which is love. Source is unconditional love. What is unconditional love in the human collective? It is acceptance. You may not have to agree with certain things, but if you can be in acceptance of what is, you let go of the resistance, and then you can start to see things even more from a higher perspective. You can be grateful for your teachers here, for your master teachers that trigger you. You can be grateful for all these ascension shifts. You can be grateful for all the adversity in your life that has been in your life. You can be grateful for all the so-called negative and positive things that's happening in the world, because you know from a higher perspective, even if you cannot understand it, it's all happening for us to shift. And I know you ladies, in your personal journeys, I'm sure, I know you both have spoken publicly about some shifts that you have been through, and me as well. And, I could have easily in my past attached to the victim mentality because of, a trauma I went through in the past. And instead of allowing that to allow me to stay in that victim mentality, I can now look back on it with gratitude. Even if I could have been physically killed from it, I'm grateful for it because it allowed me to take the inward journey. It allowed me to shed these illusions within me, to go inward, to really go into my heart space. And that is what's happening for a lot of the light workers, right? Some of you have heard of the term of the wounded healer, because it takes such events for us to go inwards, to discover our power, whether it's on an individual level or a collective level. We're all connected. So it's about seeing everything and everyone is all here assisting us out of love, even though it might not seem like it, even if they're not aware of it. Guess what? If they trigger you, they're your master teacher, and be grateful for them because they're allowing you to remember your gifts here.
I just want to jump in when we were talking about the illusion being very intense, the very negative polarity. Another trick that helps me just to bring it to a neutral state is look at all the different types of movies have been created on Earth. Horror movies, war movies, love stories, unicorns and rainbows, zombies, the end of the world, right? Look at all these different types of movies created over and over and over and over again, right? So it's exciting. So when you see something in our collective that's very dark, that's twisted, and you can say, ooh, that's a twisted movie. That might help you in that moment to not take it so seriously so that you can do your inner work. Because if you get caught up that there is a ghost behind you and there is a madman about to kill you, you get paralyzed. And I don't want you paralyzed. I want you to see the illusion. So think of it as a movie. Be curious and then do your soul work. There are scary movies out there, but that's okay because they're fun. That's all.
That is, and that really helps you to detach from what's happening, you know. And actually talking about dimensions as well, just brings to mind some experiences I've had recently where I've been able to see multi-dimensions. So, you know, as we discussed, we're multi-dimensional beings. And I've actually seen through my own eyes, I've experienced our multidimensional self. So I've been able to be in the present moment being triggered, and then I've envisioned another story that's happening in another dimension, and that can continue, and that can be manifested here if I don't change my perception and frequency. So all our multi-dimensions affect us here, and we attract those dimensions. So sometimes when I'm triggered, I can actually see it's like this, it's like a movie, you're right. And I can see, oh, this is playing out, this dimension. And it's like, have you ever watched that movie Sliding Doors? It's a very old 90s movie, Gwyneth Paltrow. It's kind of like that, where it could be the same players, but it's different scenario, different personalities, different jobs, or whatever it is. It's kind of a bit different. And then I'm like, wow. And I'm literally seeing, oh, if this plays out, that could be a potentiality to be manifested here. And, oh, this is interesting. And you start to see like who we truly are. So, and then it's the same. If you're feeling joy and love, that's who we truly are. Then you can see dimensions. And I've seen the shift of these dimensions. And then now they've changed to reflect that of love, to reflect that of joy, just because of me doing my work here in this present reality. I'm shifting my dimensions and multi-dimensional lives. And then the thing is, we are all connected to all our lives, both here and all the lives we're living elsewhere outside of Earth, right? And they're all connected. So we are truly one, not just as in source energy, right? We are one with all our multidimensional selves and with the collective. So the guidance that comes to you is also coming from you, right? And even though we, label our spirit guides, and of course, I channel the beings of light, so of course, they like to put labels, and it's fun to do this. And because our level of understanding, we seem to absorb more teachings, knowing it comes from external force, right? But in higher truth, and what they teach is that they are actually us, just different dimensions of us. So once we can really, and this is important for all the soul work here, is that it's really about raising our perception of who we are, that we are worthy, that we are powerful, because this paradigm of victim mentality can often come when we feel not worthy, when we feel not powerful, right? That we don't deserve love, we don't deserve power. If you can raise your own perception of who you are, that you are in fact divine, that you are source manifested, that you are a master teacher, because guess what? Everyone that's living on earth right now are master teachers. They're very advanced. Even those you may perceive to be evil or in fear, however you perceive them, they're really enlightened beings. They're just playing roles here, right? If you can start to see that within yourself, how perfect you are, how beautiful you are, how beautiful reality is, how magical you are, you then start to change your reality, you start to manifest your reality in such a way that reflects the love that you are. And this is why there is so many of us, when even though we're one collective, there is people who are experiencing their life and they're perceiving the world in fear, like Armageddon, what you're saying, Astrid. And there's some of us who's able to attract those dimensions of love within them. And now they can see their reality in love, in acceptance, as an exciting journey of the ascension journey, that we are in fact free. So you can see there's a difference here. And how do you get to that perception change? It's about accepting all dimensions of you and everything that's happening in your reality as a first step, because acceptance has less resistance, because it might be harder, right, to love something that seems dark, that seems, fear-based. But if you can at least accept it, even if you don't have to agree with it, just accept it, that is the first step in letting go of the resistance here. But yeah, ladies, how important is it to focus on self-love within yourself in this journey?
Yeah, I totally agree. It's just, for me, that's like the core of everything that I try to teach, that everything, absolutely everything in your reality is about, it is a reflection of what you believe about yourself. So absolutely everything in your reality is about you. It's all about you and what you believe, how you feel and think about yourself. And okay, advertisement here, that's why I do the self-acceptance course, because it's so important. Everything, all our problems or perceived problems or issues or, the drama, the trauma, it all comes down to how we perceive ourselves. So no matter what problem you perceive yourself to have, it's all about your perception of self. So thank you for listening to my TED Talk.
I took her self-acceptance course. I took Astrid's self-acceptance course, and I think it was a really good, important piece of my understanding and development. And
thank you, Isabelle. I'll pay you after this call.
Yeah. But what I really want the listeners to focus on, Kimberly was talking about dimensions, and Astrid says everything you create within. Okay. So how does that tie in? I create everything from within, and dimensions, which seems outside of me. So how does that work? Right? Curious? Those dimensions, my loved ones, are real. Just because you cannot see them in front of your little eyesies right now does not mean it does not exist. Shocking, I know. The math is there. Just because you don't know the math formula does not mean it does not exist. Just because you don't understand advanced physics does not mean it doesn't exist. You have a gap of understanding. So do I. It's okay. But those dimensions are real. Your imagination is real. You have been taught and conditioned imagination is not real. But my child, that is very real. That is as real as you listening to me right now.
Very real.
Really listening to me? Because those are just waves going through your computer, through the room, translating through your ears as little vibrations, translating through your brain, non-physical, right now. So those dimensions are real. Your inner work is real. You create through your vibrations, through your beliefs, all of it. So I hope that excites you to do your inner work.
Yes. And yes, imagination, 100%. We've been conditioned that it's a make-believe. Guess what? When you see something, we think it's your imagination, you are seeing another dimension, right? This is why visualization techniques are very beneficial and can really enact change here. So yeah, there's a lot more going on here than we can ever comprehend here. And on that note of dimensions, perhaps if you are having difficulty to comprehend the concept of dimensions, something just came to mind only because I just finished watching it. There's some shows, like there's an old 90s show. I don't know if, depending where you are in the world, I don't know if you can have access to it, but it's very old, a little bit tacky, but it gives you an idea of dimensions. This, Sliders, there's an old show, I think it's from the 90s. More recently, even though the first half of the first season was a bit kind of dark. It does get more lighter, but there's a series on Netflix called OA, and it's the second half of the first season and the second season, or it's part 1, part 2, that also gives you a you know, it might not be exactly how it is, but it kind of opens your mind to perceive what are dimensions. So maybe if you're curious about multi-dimensions, have a look at certain shows and, you know, things like that might represent that, just to open your mind a little bit.
But
at the end of the
Kimberly,
day,
you have YouTube videos about dimensions. So I would
Yes, well-
suggest watch your videos
Oh,
first.
yes, well-
That's what I would
Thanks,
say.
Astrid.
Yeah.
Well, yes, I basically in the teachings I provide, the beings of the light, they always talk about dimensions. So yeah, again, thank you, Astrid, for my own teachings.
Might be helpful tools there.
Yes. But I have a look on, you know, Beings of the Light with Kimberley, the YouTube channel. I have a lot of channelings there. Basically, all of my sessions, live group channelings, talk about dimensions. So that also helps too.
The aliens, because our alien friends and our beings of light, they understand dimensions very well. Right? And I in your awakening, I didn't really understand dimensions. I didn't really think they were real, to be honest with you. But now they're really an energetic field created. They are very real. So, Astrid, I know you channel many beings. What does dimensions feel like to you?
What does it feel like to me? It feels like
Or
potential. Potential.
Potential. Yes. A potential field. And law of attraction, you draw that potentiality to you.
Mm-hmm. And
but then, right? And then that other part is being loosey-goosey
yeah,
with
shake it
how
off.
it's coming to you.
Yeah.
Very true. And, you know, all these dimensions too are within us. So, you know, everything that we perceive as, oh, there's an external dimension, external world, external beings. Yes, we perceive it as external because we attach to duality, but understand that even the dimensions, everything in reality, in all that is actually within us. We are the universe. We are all that is within us. This is why, even though guidance can be perceived to come outside of yourself, right, it's actually from within you. And some of us disregard that guidance because we think, oh, it's just my imagination. Oh, that's just my mind chatter telling me something. Guess what? That's guidance coming from within you. It doesn't always have to sound like a booming voice, you know, coming from the skies, you know what I mean? It's coming from within you, and the guidance comes to you in many different ways. If you can open your mind to how these guidance comes to you. I mean, I was talking to Astrid and Isabelle the last few months or so, and I've been able to experience time travel. I've been able to receive guidance from another dimension in a perceived future that's already happened, and bring that guidance into now. It's actually me in another dimension, another future, I guess, telling me guidance for the now. So I've had these experiences, and I've been able to have glimpses of who we truly are. And it's, geez, guys, if you can just open your mind, how exciting this is. Like, you know, the times when you feel alone, right? Really, if you can just open your perspective that not only your spirit guides, which are aspects of us, are also helping you, but you are helping you from other dimensions. How cool is that? But you are also assisting you.
But Kimberly, if people have personal questions about this, or if they want to ask you or Isabelle questions, they can do so on the channel panel, right? You will open up for people to ask you questions in December.
Yes, that's right. So there is a couple events coming up. So yes, me and Isabelle, along with other channels, are doing a channel panel. It'll be December December the 19th and December 20th, Eastern time, American time. and it'll go over 2 days. And yeah, you can join and ask questions there. So that's an exciting way. If you want to talk about, if you've got a lot of questions about today, yeah, and then personally, like all three of us, we also have our individual services available, that if you want to reach out to all of us, Astrid has her courses, and
Patreon is probably the easiest, and you have Patreon too, right?
Yeah, so I have Patreon too, and if you're inspired, you can explore that too. And Isabelle, she has a psychic development course, and you can join her too. So there's a lot of assistance out there for you. So ladies, that's actually a good note to finish, actually. But yeah, so just a reminder that you are truly not alone, and understand that. Even though this illusion can be strong at times, this fear can feel so real, know that this is just a dimension of you that needs to feel your love, right? It's like you in fear going, I need a hug. Come hug me, right? So if you can embrace that, if you can hug that version of you that's in fear, you actually heal that aspect of you. You actually then unite that into oneness remembrance. So understand, it's not being resistant or fearful of fear itself, those dimensions of you. It's about acknowledging it. They're here to teach you something, to assist you on your ascension journey here, that it's all gifts here for you. Everything is happening for you. And everything, as above, so below, as within, so without, everything you are seeing in society is all for us, for our highest good, even though we may not see the full picture. Even though some of us have some, inside tips what's going on, even those of us might have some insights or some guidance about what's occurring, even us may not be able to see the full picture of what's happening, right? Because it all depends on the collective. There is no set in stone future outcomes, right? Because it depends on the present collective. If the collective shifts in one way, then the future potentiality will also shift, right? So it's really about focusing on what's in the present. And yes, even though we're multidimensional, what matters is this dimension in the present, this present life. And although, we could get caught up, those of us who like to explore, multidimensional lives and who us living in other worlds, you might see that, wow, who we are as like ET beings on this world or in this dimension is more advanced. But in reality, even though you may not see this world as maybe highly advanced because of the technology or whatever, this dimension is the most advanced dimension in consciousness, which you just do not maybe see it. And I know there are some people who like to focus on other versions or other beings because they think they're more highly advanced than us, but we are the advanced ones, right? It's just that we have forgotten it. So it's really about raising your frequency of your perception, also of who you are, that you are powerful, that you're worthy, that you are loved. And if you can do that, you will be able to see this reality for yourself. So ladies, any last words before we finish here today?
No, thank you for listening, everyone.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining. I know it's we're in 3 different time zones. I'm in Sydney, Australia. Isabelle's in New York, and Astrid's in Norway. So we I know it's very late where you are, Astrid. So again, thank you especially for joining, because I know it's quite late there. And so, ladies, where can people find you?
Well, I have a website, astridhalvorsen.com. I'm also Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Patreon. I think that's it. Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, the normal podcast places, and YouTube. I don't know if I said that. It's too late. It's midnight.
And you can find me Attracting Wisdom. I'm on Instagram and Facebook. I have a website. Just, Attracting Wisdom. That's all. You'll find me.
Wonderful. And for guys who want to know more information about me, my name's Kimberley Leite, if you don't know already, and you can find more information on my website at beingsofthelight.com. You'll find links to my YouTube channel. There's a lot of free resources there with a lot of YouTube videos. I've got a Patreon community where if you want to actually participate in channeling sessions, I also have podcasts too, 2 podcasts. So this one here, Mystical Musings with Friends, and then we also have podcasts with live channelings. Anyway, Instagram and all the rest, Facebook and all the rest. So all the links on the website. So again, thank you all for joining today, ladies, and thank you all of you who's watching or listening to this. Just remember, you're never alone. Remember that you are loved. Remember that you are source manifested. So until next time, love and light. Farewell. Thank you for listening to this episode of Mystical Musings with Friends. To find more info about myself and how to reach out to me about this podcast, please see the episode details. Remember, you are never alone on your journey, for you are one with all that is.